On the northern coastline of Kenya, where the historic stone alleys of Lamu meet the deep waters of Manda Bay, a $17 billion gamble is taking shape. If supporters are right, this project will transform East Africa into an energy superpower, ending its dependence on foreign fuel forever. If critics are right, it could become one of the most expensive industrial white elephants in African history. The numbers driving the headlines are massive. The proposed investment, 2.2 trillion Kenyan shillings, or roughly 17 billion US dollars. The claimed capacity, 700,000 barrels of crude oil per day. The key backer, Africa's richest man, Nigerian billionaire Aliko Dangote. Kenya's government, under a special interministerial task force chaired by Deputy President Kithure Kindiki, is fast-tracking feasibility and land assessments to host the megaproject. But there is one question almost nobody is asking. Even if Kenya secures the money, the land, and the political support, where will 700,000 barrels of crude oil every single day actually come from? The answer could determine whether this becomes East Africa's greatest industrial success or its most expensive failed experiment. Welcome to the documentary. Today, we analyze the 2.2 trillion shilling Lamu refinery push, separating political ambition from economic reality and mapping out the conflict that could derail it before groundbreaking even begins. To understand why this proposal carries weight, we have to look at Nigeria. In Lagos, the Dangote Group built a $20 billion mega refinery with a 650,000 barrel per day capacity. While critics doubted a private African conglomerate could pull off a facility larger than most state-owned plants in Europe, the facility was successfully commissioned and is expanding. Now, Dangote is attempting to replicate that exact playbook in East Africa. But here is where we must distinguish confirmed government policy from feasibility stage proposals. What is confirmed? President William Ruto directed a cabinet committee to engage investors, and feasibility and soil studies are underway at Lamu Port. What remains in the proposal stage? Financial close, offtake agreements, and environmental permits have not been finalized. In Nairobi, cabinet secretaries from Treasury, Energy, Roads, and Lands are laying out preliminary regulatory pathways. Dangote's condition is clear. He wants land, infrastructure, and crucially, regional trade protection against low-cost fuel imports from Asia and Russia. And that requirement is already sparking friction across East Africa. Why Lamu? Why not Tanzania or Mombasa? A 700,000 barrel per day refinery requires constant deliveries from very large crude carriers, supertankers that hold up to 2 million barrels. These ships require deep-water harbors. Manda Bay in Lamu, constructed under the multi-billion-dollar LAPSSET Corridor project, offers naturally deep berths capable of receiving supertankers without expensive dredging operations. But choosing Kenya was not a frictionless decision. Initial discussions explored ports across the region, including Tanga in Tanzania. The shift toward Kenya highlighted an underlying economic rivalry between Kenya and Tanzania over who gets to control East Africa's logistics and energy trade. And in a moment, we will explain why one overlooked problem, not financing, could decide the fate of the entire project. To see why Kenya is pursuing this project despite the risks, look at the regional energy balance sheet. According to industry data, African nations export a major share of their raw crude, while regional trade blocs across sub-Saharan Africa import the vast majority of their processed fuels from foreign suppliers. When geopolitical conflicts disrupt global maritime trade choke points like the Red Sea or the Strait of Hormuz, freight rates surge. Because East Africa relies heavily on foreign refining, local pump prices spike instantly. Every month, central banks in Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania convert millions in local currency into U.S. dollars to pay for imported fuel. Refining domestically keeps value addition in the region and relieves pressure on national currencies. However, the project's economic model hinges on protectionism. Dangote has openly stated that no major refinery can survive without government policy shielding it from cheap dumped imports. That raises a crucial question. Are East African consumers willing to pay higher protected fuel tariffs just to keep a domestic refinery profitable? Everything we have discussed so far assumes construction begins, but three major obstacles could still delay or even derail the refinery. This is no longer just an economic debate. It has become a full-scale battleground. Conflict number 1. The environmental challenge. Greenpeace Africa and local conservation organizations are demanding a complete halt to fast-tracked approvals until an independent environmental and social impact assessment is completed. Lamu's UNESCO-listed ecosystem features fragile mangrove forests, coral reefs, and vibrant local fisheries. Environmentalists warn that industrial runoff or marine oil spills could permanently devastate the local economy. Conflict number 2. The crude oil dilemma. Where does the crude come from? Option A is imported sea crude, shipping raw oil from global markets to Lamu via supertankers. Option B is inland regional crude, constructing long-distance pipelines to tap South Sudan or Uganda's oil fields. Connecting inland oil reserves requires multi-country cross-border security guarantees and billions in additional pipeline capital, a logistical nightmare that has stalled past African refinery ventures. Conflict number 3, regional East African community consensus. Uganda is advancing plans for its own refinery in Hoima, while Tanzania holds pipeline transit agreements. Getting all member states to prioritize Lamu over their own national infrastructure projects remains an unproven diplomatic hurdle. As technical feasibility studies continue on the coastline of Lamu, East Africa stands at a crossroads. The 2.2 trillion shilling refinery push is either the catalyst that secures East Africa's industrial self-reliance or a cautionary tale of overreaching ambitions on a fragile coastline. To recap, the promise is a $17 billion investment, 700,000 barrels per day capacity, currency protection, and job creation. The reality is that the project remains in the feasibility and negotiation stage, facing diplomatic hurdles, environmental opposition, and unsolved crude supply logistics. Will ground be broken, or will logistics and environmental opposition force a stalemate? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for deep dive geopolitical breakdowns. Thanks for watching.